Welcome to the deep dive.
Today we're really getting into the machinery of the mind.
We are. We're going straight to the core of, how you think, how you judge.
And maybe more importantly, why you sometimes mess up. And in such predictable ways.
Right. So, to get us started, I want you to try a little mental exercise. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Calculate 17 multiplied by 24. And don't write it down. Just hold the whole process in your head for a second. Go on.
Yeah.
Okay, you can stop. Did you feel that pressure?
Oh, yeah. It's a real feeling.
It is. If we had you hooked up to monitors, we would see actual physiological changes. Your pupils would dilate, heart rate goes up, muscles tense. It's real work.
It's physical effort.
Exactly. Now let's try something else.
Yeah.
Just read the word elephant.
Done. Zero effort. Instant.
The difference between those two things, that struggle with the math versus the immediate recognition of the word, it's huge.
And that huge gap is pretty much the core insight of the seminal work we're diving into today. This revolutionary idea that our judgment is guided by two, fundamentally different operating systems in our brain.
And our mission today is pretty simple. We want to give you the vocabulary, the labels for these systematic, predictable errors.
These cognitive biases.
That we all make. It's a shortcut to understanding why you and everyone around you makes the decisions they do.
So we'll call these two processes System 1 and System 2.
And System 1 is sort of our mental default, right? It's the hero of the story, the fast, intuitive mind.
Exactly. System 1 is automatic, it's effortless, it's instant. It's what's generating your first impressions, your gut feelings, your intentions.
So like an experienced driver hitting a patch of black ice. They don't think, they just react.
That's pure SS System 1. It's incredibly skilled. It runs at the pace of, let's say, a comfortable stroll, saves energy.
But the moment I asked you to do 17 times 24, we had to force a shift. We had to power up System 2.
And that's the definition of slow thinking.
Right.
System 2 needs conscious attention. It requires deliberation. It's serious effort. It's what you use to hold complex ideas in your memory or to focus on something difficult.
And most importantly, self-control.
Yes. This is the mental sprint.
And that sprint has a big price tag. Mental effort. If you've ever tried one of those awful add 3 exercises where you have to increment every digit in a string of numbers.
Oh, they're brutal.
They're brutal. And you can feel your attention just draining away, that physical exhaustion, the dilated pupils. That's your brain screaming that it's running out of gas.
The brain is always looking for the path of least effort. And that's why when System 2 is running at full tilt, it can make us, effectively blind to the obvious.
What brings us to the famous invisible gorilla study.
Classic.
For anyone who doesn't know it, people were told to intensely focus on counting basketball passes in a video.
And in the middle of it, a person in a full gorilla suit walks onto the screen, stops, thumps their chest, and walks off.
And about half of the people completely failed to see it.
Half. They are looking right at it, but their attention, their limited System 2 capacity, is completely used up by the counting task.
So intense focus literally makes you blind to anything outside that narrow little window.
And here's the real kicker from the source material. It's not just that they're blind to the obvious.
They're blind to their blindness.
Yes. When you ask them about it later, they refuse to believe the gorilla was there. They're so confident they saw everything, they don't even know that they failed.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it shows the limits of System 2.
Yeah.
But its most important job isn't even doing hard math, is it?
No, not at all. Its most important job is being the gatekeeper. Because System 1, you can't turn it off. If you see a word on a page, you read it, period.
So System 2's main task is to override those automatic impulses.
Right, like when you're trying so hard not to stare at someone across the room.
Or following a counterintuitive instruction like steer into the skid when your car is sliding on ice.
Exactly. Every one of those actions requires deliberate, energy-intensive effort to fight your instant automatic reflex.
Okay, so because System 2 is, as you said, lazy and expensive to run, System 1 just jumps to conclusions.
It does. It uses these simplifying shortcuts, which we call heuristics.
And these shortcuts are usually good.
Most of the time, they're great. But when they lead to systematic, predictable errors, that's what we call a bias.
So let's start with a classic one, the halo effect.
Yeah, this one is so easy to see in the real world. The classic experiment involved asking people to evaluate two people, Alan and Ben.
Alan is described as intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, envious, in that order.
And Ben is described with the exact same 6 words, but in reverse order, starting with envious.
And predictably, everyone loves Alan.
Far more favorably, yes. The sequence is everything. System 1 builds a coherent story on the fly. Those first positive traits, intelligent and industrious, frame how you see everything else.
So stubborn in an intelligent person sounds like they have conviction.
Principled, yeah. But stubborn in an envious person, that sounds spiteful and dangerous.
So the first impression just bulldozes everything that comes after.
It really does. And this whole process feeds into what's called cognitive ease. Think of it as a spectrum.
Okay.
On one end, you have cognitive ease. Things feel familiar, clear, good. That's when System 1 is in charge. You're in a good mood, you trust your intuition, but you're also more gullible.
And on the other end is cognitive strain.
Strain. When something is hard to read or hard to understand, that's when System 2 wakes up. You become more vigilant, more suspicious, more analytical.
And our brain hates strain so much that it will create what's called an illusion of truth just to get back to that easy feeling.
That's it exactly. Aphorisms that rhyme, for example, are judged as being more insightful than ones that don't.
Just because it sounds better.
It's easier to process. Or think about company names. Studies show that companies with easily pronounced names, like Artan or KAR, actually perform better in the stock market initially.
Because it just feels right.
It feels easy, and System 2 doesn't want to step in and do the work to question it. If it's easy, we trust it.
Which brings us to maybe the most powerful rule of them all. WYSIOD.
What you see is all there is.
So simple, but profound.
It really is. It just means that System 1 builds the best, most coherent story it can, using only the information it has right in front of it.
And it completely ignores what's missing.
It doesn't even know anything is missing. It's blind to it.
And this explains overconfidence perfectly. If I say to you, will Mindy be a good leader? She's intelligent and strong.
You immediately get a positive feeling. A little story forms in your head. Yes, she will.
But your confidence isn't based on the amount of data you have. You know almost nothing about her.
It's based on the coherence of the very simple story I just made up. And that story feels complete.
So when we have to estimate actual numbers, this same process leads to the anchoring effect.
Right. An initial number, even a completely random, useless number, will latch onto your brain.
And your System 2 just doesn't adjust far enough away from it.
It stops too early. The example they use is it's unsettling. They took German parole judges, all with over 15 years of experience.
So these are experts.
Bona fide experts. They read a description of a shoplifter. Then they rolled a pair of loaded dice that would only land on a 3 or a 9.
A completely random, irrelevant number.
Totally. Then they were asked what sentence they would give. The judges who rolled a 9 gave an average sentence of 8 months.
Okay.
The judges who rolled a 3, they averaged 5 months.
Wait, hold on. A random roll of a die created a 50% difference in a prison sentence from experienced judges.
That's the power of the anchor. It just pulls your final judgment toward it, even when you know it's meaningless.
That completely changes how I think about professional judgment.
It suggests expertise isn't just about knowledge, it's about actively resisting these irrelevant inputs.
And that search for easy information also drives the availability heuristic.
Right. We judge how frequent or important something is by how easily examples come to mind.
This one is so easy to see in daily life, like in a marriage or any collaboration.
Oh, for sure.
Spouses always overestimate their own contribution to chores, or to arguments for that matter.
Because your own actions, your own efforts, your own suffering, it's all much more available in your memory than your partner's.
So when you add up the percentages, you get something like 130% of the work accounted for.
Every time. It's not malice, it's just memory.
Okay, let's talk about probability, because this is where System 1 really gets us into trouble.
It does. It loves to substitute a hard question like, what is the statistical probability, with an easy one? What does this remind me of?
Which is representativeness. And it leads to base rate neglect.
The classic here is the Tom W. problem. You're given a description of Tom. He's shy, neat, has a need for order.
He sounds like a stereotypical librarian or maybe a computer scientist.
He does. So when you're asked to guess his field of study, you rank those fields highly.
But in doing that, you're completely ignoring the base rate.
Completely. You're ignoring the simple fact that there are vastly more students in fields like humanities or social sciences than in library science. He's far more likely to be in the bigger group, no matter what the description says.
But the story of the tidy computer scientist is just too compelling.
The vivid story always beats the cold statistic for System 1.
And this is perfectly shown in the conjunction fallacy, the Linda problem.
Everyone knows Linda. She's described as bright, outspoken, and very concerned with social justice.
And then you're asked, is it more likely that Linda is A, a bank teller, or B, a feminist bank teller?
And most people, the vast majority, choose B, feminist bank teller.
Which is logically impossible.
It has to be wrong, because the group feminist bank tellers is a subset of the group bank tellers. A subset can never be more probable than the larger set it belongs to.
But the description makes the story of a feminist bank teller so much more representative, so much more coherent.
That your intuition just tramples all over basic logic, the better story wins.
System 1 is also just obsessed with finding causes for everything. It can't accept randomness.
No, it's blind to mere statistics, which we can really see when we talk about regression to the mean.
The flight instructor example is perfect for this.
It is. So flight instructors noticed that when a cadet performed an exceptionally good maneuver, and they praised him for it.
The next attempt was almost always worse.
Right. But if a cadet did a terrible maneuver and the instructor screamed at them,
Their next one was usually better.
So they all came to the conclusion punishment works and praise doesn't. They built a causal story.
But the story is completely wrong.
It's totally wrong. The reality is that an extreme performance, whether it's great or terrible, is usually a combination of skill and luck.
So the next attempt is just statistically likely to be closer to their average.
It's just regressing back to their personal average. The screaming had nothing to do with it. But the causal story feels so true to their system 1.
But of course, once an outcome has happened, we all fall for the illusion of hindsight.
The I knew it all along effect.
Ugh, it's so annoying.
It is, because it makes us revise our memory of the past to fit the present. We forget how surprised we actually were.
And this makes the world system way more predictable than it actually is.
Which is so dangerous because it stops us from learning from our mistakes. We blame bad outcomes on bad decisions when really it might have just been unpredictable bad luck.
Okay, so we tend to trust people who are highly confident. But the source material draws a really important line here about when that confidence is actually valid.
Yes. Expert intuition, which is really just highly trained system 1, can be incredibly accurate, but only in what are called regular environments.
What's a regular environment?
Think of a chess master who sees the board and just knows the right move, or a firefighter who walks into a burning building and feels that something is wrong.
They've had thousands of hours of practice with clear, immediate feedback.
Exactly. They've learned to recognize the patterns, but in low validity environments.
Like, say, picking stocks or predicting elections long term.
Precisely. In those fields, confidence is meaningless. The environment is just too noisy and chaotic. A simple statistical algorithm will almost always outperform a human expert.
But the experts are still so confident.
Because their confidence comes from the coherence of the story they tell themselves, not from any real predictive power. It's the illusion of validity.
So when we put all this together, the big takeaway is we're not rational.
We're not the perfectly rational econs of classic economic theory. We are humans, and we're predictably irrational.
And we're so easily swayed by how things are presented. The framing effects.
Absolutely. Telling a patient that a surgery has a 90% survival rate is so much more reassuring
Than telling them it has a 10% mortality rate.
even though they are the exact same thing mathematically. One is framed as a gain, the other as a loss, and our emotional system 1 reacts completely differently.
Okay, this is all pretty humbling. But this final distinction is maybe the weirdest, because it splits our own self into two.
The experiencing self versus the remembering self.
The experiencing self is the one living in the moment. It's the one that answers the question, does it hurt right now?
And the remembering self is the storyteller. It's the one who looks back and answers, how was it, on the whole?
But the remembering self is a terrible archivist. It follows the peak-end rule and suffers from duration neglect.
Which means the actual length of the experience, its duration, gets almost zero weight in your memory of it.
Zero.
Basically zero. The memory is formed almost entirely by the most intense moment, the peak, and how it felt right at the very end.
Which leads to that unbelievable cold hand experiment.
It's a wild one. People put their hand in painfully cold water. One trial is short, but ends at peak pain. The other trial is much longer, but in the last few seconds, the water is warmed up just a little bit.
Still painful, but less painful than the peak.
Right. And when they're asked which trial they'd rather repeat, they choose the longer one.
They choose to endure more total pain, simply because the memory of it is better.
The memory has a happier ending. The remembering self is a tyrant that optimizes for good stories, not for less suffering.
So if we're this riddled with biases, From start to finish, what is the single most important thing we can do to make better judgments?
The final, most powerful advice is about how we fight the planning fallacy.
Our tendency to be wildly optimistic about our own plans, because we're focused on our own unique case, the inside view.
The single greatest antidote to this is to systematically force yourself to seek the outside view.
You have to forget for a moment all the special details of your own situation, your unique team, your brilliant plan.
And instead, you have to go find the statistics. You look for the reference class, what happened to other people who tried to do the same thing.
And you have to accept that your fate is probably going to be a lot closer to theirs than your optimistic story would suggest.
It's a sober, crucial dose of reality that your confident storytelling system 1 will do everything in its power to ignore.
You have to look past the beautiful coherence of your own narrative and accept an uncomfortable truth. To be accurate, you have to start by accepting that you're probably not that special.
Something to think about the next time you're mapping out a big project.